Good evening to you all. Today we're talking about episode 15 from Surah Al-Aaraf. Then after them we sent Moses with our signs to Pharaoh and his chiefs, but they wronged themselves by rejecting them. So see how the fate of the corruptors turned out. The meaning is that God is saying, after we sent Noah, Hud, Salih, Lot, and Shuaib to their peoples and destroyed those among them who denied, we sent Moses with a message to Pharaoh. Who is Pharaoh? He is the ruler of Egypt. What did we send? We sent Moses to Pharaoh and to the nobles among his people. Moses went to them with the message, but they disbelieved in it. So God is telling the Prophet Muhammad, look, O Muhammad, at how Pharaoh and his people ended up. Who is the source here? It is Fath al-Qadir by al-Shawkani. Here, honestly, I don't have a question or anything. And this episode doesn't have many questions because it's basically a story. And Moses said, O Pharaoh, I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. The meaning is that when God sent Moses, or when he dispatched him to Pharaoh and his chiefs, as mentioned in the previous verse, Moses said, Peace be upon you. They replied, And upon you be peace. Then Pharaoh and his people, the Copts, said, I am God's messenger to you. Source, Ibn Kathir's Quranic commentary. Notice here that the speech has shifted from God in the previous verse to Moses. And Moses said, so here the statement is from Moses, and God is quoting him, recording, observing, narrating, and recounting it in the Quran. It is incumbent upon me not to say anything about God except the truth. I have come to you with clear evidence from your Lord, so send the children of Israel with me. The meaning here is that when Moses went to Pharaoh, he told him, It is my duty. I am obligated not to say or report anything about God except the truth. So I have come to you from God. I, as Moses, have come to you from God with undeniable proof of the truth of my message, that I am indeed a messenger, first of all, and that my message is true, secondly, right? So he asks him, he says, release the children of Israel, give them to me, and let them worship God, because it is absolutely wrong for you to enslave them like this, to humiliate them like this, and to exploit them in this way. These people are nobles, descendants of Jacob, son of Isaac, son of Abraham. The source here is also Ibn Kathir's Tafsir al-Quran al-Azim. Keep in mind that the note or observation here is about who is speaking as well. This verse is connected to the one before it, and the speaker here is Moses. Everything he says is directed to whom? To Pharaoh. He's telling him, it is truly incumbent upon me, this thing that I am emphasizing to you. All right, I say, so send him with me, and so on. All the speech, the pronouns here refer back to Moses. So the speaker here is Moses, and the one conveying Moses' words and recording them in the Quran is God. That was the observation. So where is the question here? I mean, here he is supposed to be saying, it is truly incumbent upon me. I mean, what's supposed to be here? Should we put a shada like this? This shada isn't there, or even a fatha. It's supposed to look exactly like this. You get what I mean? I hope it's clear in front of you, or maybe I should make it a bit bigger. Haqiq alai is supposed to be exactly like this. So honestly, my question is for the language experts. It does exist, of course. Some people say there was a shada, or they read it with a shada, while others say no, it's just as it appears in the Quran, because in the Quran, by the way, there's no shada on it. So that was a question for the language experts, honestly. He said, if you have brought a sign, then bring it forth if you are truthful. The meaning is that Pharaoh started to respond to Moses. He told him, "If you have a miracle, then show it to me if you are truthful." Okay? The source here is Al-Wasit's tafsir of the Quran by Sheikh Muhammad Syed Tantawi. Notice here that the statement he said refers to Pharaoh. So God spoke first and Moses spoke second. And Pharaoh is the one speaking in the third verse. Notice here how many speakers there are. And the Quran, this is not the word of God. The Quran is not all the word of God. 80% of it is human speech. That's what Pharaoh said. Here is a hidden pronoun that can be understood as Pharaoh. He said he is Pharaoh. If you are Moses, they are talking to each other and the Quran is being quoted from him. If you, Moses, have come with a sign, then bring it. See, they're talking to each other and the Quran is just quoting them or recording what they said. So he threw his staff and suddenly it became a clear serpent. When Pharaoh told him, "Throw your staff," because, by the way, at that time there were a lot of prophets and many people claiming to be prophets. So naturally, people would ask them to prove their prophethood, to show their miracles. That's the idea. He says, Moses threw his staff, and suddenly it became a clear serpent. Moses wanted to show his blessings or throw his staff, as we say, so he threw his stick in front of Pharaoh, and the stick turned into a snake or a serpent moving extremely fast, as if it were a jinn. Who's the source here? It's also Al-Wasit in the interpretation of the Quran by Sheikh Muhammad Syed Tantawi. Okay, I want to understand, the question here is actually two questions. Who is speaking here? Who is the one saying he threw? Who is saying it? Is it God or Gabriel or Moses or Pharaoh? I don't know, because in the first verse it was God speaking, then Moses, then Pharaoh. So who is it here in 107? The one speaking is talking about Moses. I really don't know. That was my question. The second question, did Moses not find any other way to prove his prophethood except magic and pulling out his hands so it appeared white to the onlookers? What does it mean that this is connected to the previous part? He threw the staff and pulled out his hand. His hand was in his pocket like this. Then he pulled it out. The meaning is that Moses took his hand out of his pocket and it appeared extremely white, as if it was shining, as if there was a supernatural light coming from it. Who is the source saying this? This meaning, Al-Mizan in the interpretation of the Quran by Al-Tabatabai. Again, repeat the two questions here. Who is speaking here, God, Gabriel, Moses, or Pharaoh? Okay, the second question, according to the Quran, did Moses not find any miracle except magic as well? I mean, Jesus used to raise the dead by God's permission, heal the blind and the leper, make the blind see, and things like that. I think these are actually more convincing things, more proof of the prophet's prophethood. But for you to work as a magician, well, the whole world was practicing magic anyway. The chiefs among Pharaoh's people said, "This is surely a knowledgeable magician." Here, the meaning is that the elite, keep in mind, Al-Mala means the nobles, the leaders, the wealthy, and the powerful. So what did they say? The people who were the elite among Pharaoh's people, or the nobles of Pharaoh's people, when they saw Moses throw his staff and it turned into a serpent, and when he pulled his hand out of his pocket and it became intensely white, shining with a beam of light, they said, "He's a great magician or a knowledgeable magician," meaning an experienced magician. That's the story. So who is the source here? It's Al-Mizan fi Tafsir al-Quran by Al-Tabatabai. Notice here that there's a fourth speaker. God spoke, Moses spoke, then Pharaoh spoke, and then the chief spoke. So you have four speakers here in the Quran. So these words are the words of the chiefs right here. The chief said it, Not me, it's the Quran that says it right here. So these are not the words of God. This statement or these words, the word statement means words. This statement is the words of humans. The words of the chiefs, the words of the wealthy are recorded, narrated, transmitted, observed, and archived by God, quoting them. He wants to drive you out of your land, so what do you command? Here, the meaning is that this verse is connected to the one before it. The nobles or the chiefs are still speaking, and they're saying that he is a knowledgeable sorcerer. So again, they turn to their people or the cops present there, meaning their own people, and say that Moses has come to free the children of Israel from Pharaoh's captivity or from the forced labor that Pharaoh has imposed on them to help him drive the cops out of Egypt. So who did this idea come to? Whose mind did it come to? It came to the minds of the chiefs or the nobles. So they're saying to their people and to Pharaoh and so on, they're asking, what should we do? Should we kill him, crucify him, imprison him, or bring in a sorcerer to confront him, so we can expose him? We need to find out if he's a real sorcerer or not. The source here is Ma'alim al-Tanzil by al-Baghawi. Notice here that the one they're talking about, Moses, is the one the chiefs or nobles from Pharaoh's people are discussing. And remember, the narration and recording of this is from God. They said, postpone him and his brother, and send in the city's gatherers. The meaning is that Pharaoh's chiefs told him, keep Moses and his brother Aaron. Don't kill them, don't crucify them, don't imprison them, don't do anything to them, just keep them. And send your men throughout all the cities of Egypt to look for magicians who can confront Moses and expose him. That's what's going on here. The source is Ma'alim al-Tanzil by al-Baghawi. And keep in mind that the statement here is still coming from the chiefs. The leaders and nobles among Pharaoh's people are the ones advising their leader, Pharaoh, and telling him, postpone it, meaning hold off, like when you delay something. So here, the statement is from the chiefs, and the narration, the recording, and the observation are all about them. So that they may bring you every skilled magician. Of course, there are people, according to the recitation of Hamza and Al-Kisai, they read it not as Sahir, magician. No, they read it as I'll write it for you now. Sahar. That's exactly how it is. They read it like that. You get it? Not Sahir. No. That's regarding the verse. Regarding the recitation. As for the meaning, the chiefs said to Pharaoh, send your men, and your men will bring you the magicians so they can challenge him with magic. So if the magicians defeat him, then he's truly a magician, or if not, then he must be a prophet. You see, who's the source here? It's actually Ma'alim al-Tanzil by al-Baghawi. In truth, the statement here still belongs to the chiefs or the nobles from Pharaoh's people. And the transmission, documentation, narration, storytelling, and archiving, all of that is by God in the Quran. And the magicians came to Pharaoh and said, will we really have a reward if we are the victors? They brought in the magicians. They gathered them from Al-Aaraf, Fam, Alexandria, Upper Egypt, and all those places. So they went to Pharaoh and basically said, we want a few perks, some benefits, since we're going to work and put in the effort. We want a cash prize. If we beat Moses, you give us a cash prize. The source here is Al-Jami Li Akam al-Kern by Al-Qurtubi. The truth is, scholars here, folks, disagreed about the number of magicians Pharaoh's men brought in from all the cities. Some said 70, others said 100, some said 1,000, and some said anywhere from 10,000 up to 70,000. So no one really knows the exact number. So whose opinion do we go with here? Keep in mind there's another player involved. So who are they then? Whose statement is it here? The important thing is the magicians came. The magicians arrived and said, the statement here is from the magicians. So there was a statement from God, then a statement from Moses, then a statement from his chiefs or the nobles around him, his entourage, and then a statement from the magicians. They're the ones who said, will we really get a reward? Who are they talking to? They're talking to Pharaoh. So here, there's a conversation or dialogue between Pharaoh and the magicians. They're speaking to him, and he's speaking to them. Who's the narrator? God said, yes, and you will surely be among those brought near. Here, Pharaoh is responding to the magicians and telling them, I agree to give you a financial reward. Not just that, and I promise you that you'll be among those of high status or those close to me personally. Who's the source? It's Al-Qurtubi's Al-Jami Li Akam Al-Quran. Also, pay attention. Who is speaking here? It's Pharaoh responding to the magicians. They're asking him, will you give us a reward? He told them, I'll give you a reward and you'll be among those close to me. So the statement is Pharaoh's, the pronoun is hidden, referring to him, meaning Pharaoh. He told them, I'll give you money. So the statement is Pharaoh's, and God is quoting Pharaoh's words. They said, O Moses, either you throw first, or we'll be the ones to throw. What does this mean? It means that Moses, Pharaoh placed his magicians in front of Moses, and they said to him, either you throw or we will throw, or you start your magic or we will start. They give him a choice. So, should you start showing your magic, or should we start showing what? Showcasing our magic. Okay, here. Who is the source? It is the facilitation of the sciences of revelation by Ibn Juz'i al-Gharnati. Here, the commentary says, pay attention to the course of the story. They said, meaning the magicians are now facing whom? Facing Moses. So they say to him, either you start or we start. So here the statement is from humans, from the magicians, and God is quoting them and recording it in the Quran. He said, throw. So when they threw, they bewitched the people's eyes, struck them with awe, and brought forth great magic. The meaning here is that when they said to him, will you start or shall we? He said to them, no, you start. Here Moses said to them, you throw your rods, you start your magic. You show your skills. You pay attention. This is the verse. Start by showing your magic, all right? So they had some ropes and staffs with them, and they threw them, pay attention, and they bewitched the people's eyes and terrified them, really scared them. Why? Because all those staffs and ropes turned into huge snakes and serpents as big as mountains. You see, every staff and every rope among them turned into a snake, a serpent, a viper. Huge things, massive, extremely, extremely big. So Moses was afraid that the people would just leave. He was scared they'd scatter before he even got to show his own magic. Who's the source that says this meaning? It's Lubab al-Tawil Fi Mani al-Tanzil by Al-Khazin. Okay, brothers, who has the say here? To Moses, he said, this is the one in the first word. Here it is. He said, throw. When they threw the ropes and sticks, they turned into snakes and large serpents. People were very scared and terrified, and Moses was afraid that they would panic after this terror. The question here is that you are telling me that the language group always tells you that they came. Supposedly, here there should be an aleph for the plural. I mean, sorry, the vav of the plural here is usually preceded by an aleph. This is not present in the Quran. That aleph is not there. Some people said yes, there was an aleph, and others said no. It's like this without the aleph. So maybe the language experts can respond to us about this. And we inspired Moses, throw your staff, and suddenly it swallowed up what they were falsifying. The meaning here is that God has now intervened directly. That is, God started and God ended this episode. So pay attention. Here God is saying, we, God, inspired Moses to throw his staff. Start, throw your staff on the ground just as they threw their rods and ropes. You too throw your staff. So when he threw his staff, it swallowed up and snatched in a single moment all their snakes and serpents. Take note, all of theirs, and exposed that their magic was fake, that it was all just tricks, really. The source here is Al-Alusi's Ru al-Marani. The point here is the statement or clarification. What does the clarification say? That we inspired. That is, we, God. Who is speaking here? It's God. He's not quoting anyone else. No, he's saying it himself. This is God's own words. You get it? So the first verse we started with, 103, is God's words. And the verse we ended with has a first-person pronoun spoken by God himself. It's God in verse 117. So the questions here, folks, says here, and we inspired Moses. So how did God inspire Moses in this case? Did he inspire him through Gabriel, or was it a direct revelation without any intermediary? The second question is, how does God intervene in the process of magic itself? So, in summary, the truth is that Moses spoke to Pharaoh, not just that. He also spoke to the chiefs and to the three magicians. So Moses spoke with Pharaoh and the chiefs. They also spoke to Moses, and the magicians spoke to Moses as well. The conversation among these three parties happened at a specific time and place by the will of everyone involved, by the will of Moses and the will of Pharaoh. Because keep in mind, their will is natural. Remember, I always repeat this point. God's knowledge is very different from God's will. I'm saying that they spoke to each other. This whole story that we saw or heard happened entirely by their own independent human will, completely separate from God's will. Because if God had willed for Moses to speak, and willed for Pharaoh to respond, and willed for the chiefs to reply, and willed for the magicians to answer. So we're dealing with a director here, not a God who assigns each person a role and manipulates puppets on a stage as he pleases. Everything that happens is by their own will, and God is simply conveying what took place between them. He just sent them a messenger, but what he would say and how they would respond, that was up to them. That was their own will, and he just reported their choices. Okay, that's Moses, and we've agreed on that. Now, let's talk about the other one. God conveyed the conversation between Moses, Pharaoh, the chiefs, and the magicians. And not just that. At the end, he inspired Moses to intervene and told him, throw your staff. All this happened when? In that place and at that time. So what was the result of all this? The result of all this is that the Quran connected God to the event itself when he said, you all throw your staffs and you, Moses, throw yours, all happening at the same time and in the same place. That means the Quran embodied God after he had, or that God became part of the events, part of the action, part of what was happening on earth. That's the story. God, ladies and gentlemen, supposedly God is absolute, He exists outside the framework of time, place, and events. God creates. God resurrects. God causes death. God gives life. God judges. But God does not intervene. That's why I tell you. Let me give you an example. All these Quranic stories are lessons. Neither did Moses go to Pharaoh, nor were there magicians, nor did they throw staffs, nor did they turn into snakes or serpents. All of this is just because that's how the desert dwellers thought. That's simply what they believed. That's how it works, basically. Let me give you another example, even though I'm going on a bit where it says, I don't know, Gabriel went to the Prophet Muhammad and told him, recite. And he replied, I am not. I'm telling you, these stories never happened at all. They simply never took place. Show me where this is in the Quran and I'll agree. Seriously, listen to what I'm saying. They just tried to make up a story, to start from there, because it's the imagination of desert Arabs, desert dwellers. How are you going to bring Gabriel into this? Is he supposed to be a link between God and the Prophet Muhammad to deliver the Quran? I mean, that just doesn't exist. This is just Quranic storytelling or Quranic tales meant to make things easier to understand for the rough desert dwellers of that time. That's my opinion, at least. But none of these stories ever actually happened. And I hope that the Islamic jurists, not scholars, because Islam doesn't really have scholars, I hope that the Islamic jurists reconsider and acknowledge the theory of Muhammad Ahmad Khalifallah, may he rest in peace, that all these stories never actually happened, but are told in the Quran purely for the sake of lessons and moral guidance. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.